Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Howdy, Kentuckiana. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson on Kentucky's Voice. You're listening to us right now on 970 AM. You may also be viewing us on Facebook on the Kentucky's Voice channel. You can find us being streamed right now on the YouTube channel, which is also Kentucky's Voice. We will post clips from this podcast, so you'll see a visual of me and my guests on that same YouTube channel, Kentucky's Voice. Just search on there. We also will be appearing on TV on Channel 21 if you have Spectrum, and that is at 12:30, 4, and maybe 8. I'm not sure. The times kind of move around a little bit. I want to handle a little bit of business ahead of time. Jim Waters, as you all know from listening on this radio station, he will be appearing before a group in Georgetown, Kentucky, which is just a little bit north of Fayette County, tomorrow at 6:30, and that will be at Frisch's. So search for Frisch's Big Boy there in Georgetown. I think the group name is Kentucky Patriots, but he will be talking about lots of legislative issues. I also want to pitch that the Louisville Tea Party is having a meeting this Thursday. That's at 6 o'clock, and that's at Roosters on Shelbyville Road. So if you want to come out for either of those and basically hear about politics from a conservative perspective, feel free to join. And all of those groups will have very interesting speakers. I know Lee Watts and also Calvin Leach are going to be appearing at that Louisville Tea Party meeting. Okay, I have a very exciting show today. We're going to be talking about, and I summarize this as servant leadership and society's forgotten people. So we're going to be talking about issues that are directly affecting Louisville. Hopefully this is part of a series of shows next week, which I will be hosting on Monday also at this same time. We're going to be talking about issues related to crime in the city. And then I will be also filling in this Wednesday on another show where we will talk about elections. Okay, so today's show, as I said, is going to be about servant leadership and society's forgotten people. Our cities, including Louisville, tend to be a collector of society's ills. People that have needs and have the greatest need of assistance, they tend to gravitate towards cities, and a lot of the problems in surrounding areas tend to collect some of those problems. I suspect that the reason for that is there tend to be more services. People that have issues, whether that be homelessness, food insecurity, maybe people that are trafficked for sex, which are issues that we will talk about today. They tend to collect in cities. And so a lot of cities have to handle those ills. The bystander effect is something I want to talk about quickly. This is a psychological phenomenon, and many people know that I actually taught psychology in college for a couple of years. The bystander effect is the tendency for individuals to do less when there are other people around. And so this became a popular theory after the rape and murder of a 28-year-old bartender in Queens, New York, named Kitty Genovese. She was raped and murdered outside of an apartment building within earshot and within view of many people. The New York Times at the time reported that there were as many as 37 people that heard that something was happening but didn't report it to the police. And so this became a common narrative that came out of this was that people in the city are jaded and they just don't care about people. As further research has proceeded, we have actually found that this tends to be a natural tendency of people. And the tendency is to not want to take personal responsibility when there is shared responsibility. And so you often see this in cities where there's a lot of people around. Everyone else assumes that someone else is going to do something about a problem. So the two guests that I'm going to have on in the next 4 segments of our show are two people who take the opposite approach. When they see a problem, they get their hands dirty, they reach down, and they are doing God's work in our community, trying to help. Those two people that I will introduce in the next segment are Pastors Alex Kennedy and Pastor Larry Coleman. Come back right after the break, and we'll talk about some of these issues affecting Louisville.
Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus. Today we're talking over a serious issue in Louisville, some serious issues in Louisville, in particular sex trafficking and forced prostitution, homelessness, and food insecurity. A lot of times these are issues that people don't even want to pretend. They pretend that these things don't exist so they can ignore them. And so I want to just we are a ministry. I do want to pitch that. If you want to give to this radio show and continue hearing about serious issues like this, please go to kyvoice.org. You can give on that website. But I want to talk about the personal responsibility that we all have to get involved in some of these serious issues. And so we are a ministry. I want to cite a piece of scripture, Matthew 25:33 through 40. And this is what is known as the prophecy of the sheep and the goats. It says, "And the Son of Man," which is to say Jesus in heaven, "will place the sheep on his right and the goats on the left. And the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom of heaven, prepare for you the foundation of the world. For I was hungry and you gave me food, I was thirsty and you gave me drink, I was a stranger and you welcomed me, I was naked and you clothed me, I was sick and you visited me, I was in prison and you came to me.' Then the righteous will answer him, saying, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry, or feed you, or thirsty, or give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?' And the king will answer them, 'Truly I say to you, as you did to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me also.'" And so the lesson for us is we need to get involved in trying to address some of these issues. I have the pleasure of welcoming on two guests. I will introduce the first one and let him talk a little bit about his ministry, and in the same segment, we'll go to the second. So first, I want to introduce Pastor Alex Kennedy. He has a ministry called Hope Rescued, and there's a D on the end of that, Hope Rescued. You can go to his website, hoperescued.com. So Alex, I want to first introduce you. Tell us a little bit about your story, how you got into the ministry, and what your ministry is doing in the city of Louisville.
Yeah. So we moved to Louisville about 4.5 years ago from Phoenix, Arizona. The Lord specifically put on our hearts to help the homeless, human trafficking, fight against food insecurity and addiction here in Louisville. We packed up and moved across the country, started from scratch, just really on a word from God, and have watched the Lord work. Hope Rescued now runs 4 homeless outreaches a week, mobile across our city in homeless camps on street corners, ministering to people that are experiencing homelessness. We have a mobile anti-trafficking outreach that goes into back alleys, hotel lobbies, street corners, ministering to people who are forced into sex trafficking trades. We run an outreach center that includes a free indoor food market style pantry where people can come in and shop for the food that they want with dignity and with purpose, and then provide community meals and numerous other things, including today opening our women's drop-in space so women can come in and get services that they need, including high school diplomas and food and all of the things that we are able to provide for them. And so one of the things that's unique to us is we're survivor-led. My wife is a trafficking survivor. We have numerous people on our team now who are survivors of domestic violence, trafficking, addiction, that now have a heart and a desire to minister to people who are experiencing what they experienced. And with that, one of the things that we look at is we look at the scripture and say, hey, how do we create solutions? Not just, hey, can we feed you? Can we pray for you? But how do we change the narrative around homelessness and trafficking? And so this year we've helped 149 people off the streets of Louisville into solutions. Several of them families, countless young kids, and then 31 women out of sexual trafficking and exploitation situations into long-term programs that'll help them get back on their feet and get them solutions. So,
all right. That's a powerful testimony. I hope everyone on the radio was impressed by that. I want to just emphasize, I want these people to brag about the importance of their ministry, because without your help and your donations, they're not going to be able to reach all the people that we really need them to reach. And so one way that you can be involved is by going to either of these people's ministries' website. They both have, I think, donation links that you can find on there and give to those ministries and those programs. All right, our second guest is Pastor Larry Coleman. Larry Coleman runs a church called City Church International, Louisville. He also has a ministry called Feed the City. And so his website is feedthecityky.com. Feedthecityky.com. Run that all together. Go to that website and you can give. So, Pastor Larry Coleman, can you just tell me a little bit about your background? Your wife, Denise, is a partner in your ministry as well, and Alex's, it's Destiny, right?
Yep.
Your wife. Larry Coleman, just tell us about your ministry and your background.
Well, great day to you, Dr. Pearson. We're so thankful to be a part of this moment here. We have been in the inner city, in the west end of our city, for about 24 years. And we're located right in the heart of the inner city. And our feeding program is called Feed the City. And every day we offer a hot meal to the community, no questions asked. And we reach out to those who have other needs other than food. We have a clothing closet. Also, we get a lot of requests for help with assistance where they need to have a shelter. And you know, the homeless rate here in the city of Louisville is very, very, very escalated and very high. We help with medical, medication, and we do a lot of referrals to other agencies to offset the money part of helping as many as we can. But every day we're open to feed. We have an emergency food box giveaway for families in a crisis. Maybe someone dies, maybe someone loses the job, maybe someone goes to jail and they have no way to provide for the family. We give them an emergency food box. One of the things that's been very effective, we always ask that family, can you volunteer? Can you give back? Can you maybe come in? And we have a lot of senior citizens that are impaired. They can't walk and move as much, but we ask them, can you roll forks? Can you put a fork in a napkin and roll it up? Can you get our cups and get some of the tables wiped off? So the giving back part, Dr. Lance, has been very effective. You know, if you ask a person to put their hands to the plow, it's very effective. And so we try to produce productive men and women in our community to really give back. And of course, the plague of addictions and drugs and alcohol and now pornography is just such escalated numbers that, you can't do enough, but we do our best. And we're there at 1100 South 26th Street, right in the heart of where everything sometimes, we get a lot of opportunities to shine our light, when there is a darkness, if you do your best and illuminate your light, you can share it with families. And, sometimes when families are going through crisis, they don't have the foundation and they don't have the effect of hearing somebody say, well, with God, all things are possible.
That's right.
And so we try to do a lot of that. And of course, with SNAP now and, with WIC, can you imagine though, WIC being cut, for infants or babies? And then when you go to Section 8, where they're saying now, well, we don't know if we're going to continue on with Section 8, and people who have just been committed to Section 8 for decades and years. And so we have a great challenge before us, but I thank God that God is going to help our city. And I commend Alex in his sex trafficking. I'm telling you, there's a lot that doesn't get told on the media when it comes to sexual immorality and things that, they don't talk about on the news, but we know in our city. And we know there's real relevant needs that need to be taken care of. And as as we look at the city of Louisville is a great city.
Absolutely.
It's a real great, a lot of great families. But sometimes when you get into a crisis situations, things can unfold so quick. You need somebody to reach out and give you a helping hand. And we have a Kroger's that is not far from our location, and the manager of the store, he just openly, transparently shared. He said, "Now, when y'all feed, y'all take away some of the shoplifting in our store." He
That's
said,
right.
when y'all give them a meal, they don't come in and grab a lot of food and run out the door.
That's right.
And then when when you understand that how some children, they just don't want to go to school. And it's not because they don't want to go to school, but they don't have correct clothing. They don't have shoes that, are able to go.
All right. So I hope you're as impressed by these men as I am. I hope it gets communicated over that radio, the great work that they're doing. On our next segment, we're going to be talking about one of the issues that we started addressing, and we're going to talk about homelessness and food insecurity later on in the show. But in our next segment, I want you to come back, and we're going to talk about the issue of sex trafficking, and we may get into a little bit of homelessness issues. So come back. I hope you are here to listen to these great servant leaders and the important work that they're doing in our city.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus. I do want to pitch to our listeners that you can text in to the number 502-571-0970. That's 502-571-0970. You can text us your questions, or you can text the word give, and a website will be sent to your phone so you can give to this ministry that we're running here, Kentucky's Voice. In our last segment, I introduced you to two great servant leaders. I want to emphasize another piece of scripture. This is Mark 10, verse 44 or 45. Whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man, which is Jesus, came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So that's just a picture of servant leadership. We as Christians, and especially people that are ministering to the outside world, to the non-Christian world, we need to be servants to the ills of our society, and we need to see the image of God in all of the people that we have in our city and all of the problems that we're dealing with. So the topic that we're going to really address in this segment, and we may get into homelessness at the end of the segment, is sex trafficking. This is something that most people want to ignore and pretend isn't happening. I have news for you. It is happening, and Louisville is shockingly central to sex trafficking in the United States. So let me give you a few statistics. From October of 2023 through September of 2024, basically a year, Kentucky received 467 reports of alleged child human trafficking, including 557 victims, of which 444 were specifically related to sex trafficking. So there's human trafficking. About 80% of that human trafficking is sex related. In Jefferson County in particular, there were 74 of such cases. That's the second highest of any region in the state. The victim demographics in these cases were 80% female with an average age of only 13 years old. The perpetrators are often caretakers or family members being trafficking to other people for any number of reasons, money, drugs, just general perversion. But so Alex Kennedy, who's an honored guest on our show, Pastor Alex Kennedy has a ministry that's specifically focused on sex trafficking. And I basically just want to bring him in and let him talk about what the issue, how big is the issue and the problem in Louisville, and why is Louisville kind of a hub of sex trafficking in the United States?
Yeah. And there's a lot of reasons why Louisville has significant issues with sex trafficking. I know a lot of them, and we even talked about it kind of in the break, of so often it's attributed to the Kentucky Derby, which of course we definitely see an uptick in sex trafficking during Derby season. It's considered one of the most sex trafficked sporting events behind the Super Bowl every year. Additionally, we are very centrally located. There's a ton of larger cities around us in Louisville with 3 major freeways as kind of that center point where everything runs through Louisville for this region. There is a significant gang problem in Louisville, and between gangs and addiction, as Pastor or Reverend Larry mentioned, is those gangs perpetuate, that addiction perpetuates a lot of sex trafficking as people fall into addiction, as they look for ways to pay for their addictions. I don't have the statistic off the top of my head, but from a narrative standpoint, reading that statistic on child sex trafficking you mentioned, I would bet that 50 to 60% of those cases are perpetuated by biological parents or caregivers.
Yep.
And that of those, 90% of them are struggling with addiction. That familial guardianship trafficking is certainly the largest that in our experience we see. Statistically, it's one of the largest perpetuators of trafficking in the country. And so much of it is driven by addiction. And then when you're addicted, you're getting your drugs oftentimes funneled through a gang, and therefore to sell, you can funnel that back through the gang. And so it's a tough issue. It is very present in our city. We talk to anywhere from 20 to 50 women every week across the city that are actively being sexually exploited, whether that is forced prostitution, which it falls under the human sex trafficking category, or it's children. It is a major issue in our city, and it's not going away. We, of course, as I mentioned, do anti-trafficking outreaches, build relationships with women, pull them off the streets as we have opportunities into long-term solutions. We partner with countless anti-trafficking organizations that provide residential care, that provide long-term help, that will take them. If they have young children, that will take them. If it's children out of sex trafficking and abuse, we partner with police and get them into solutions that work directly with children. And so there are services out there. I think the challenge is connecting with people, getting them to establish trust with us, because most of the time the last person they trusted is the one that sex trafficked them, and then establishing that exit point.
Right. I'm just tragic. This entire topic is obviously tragic, but that doesn't mean we should ignore it. In fact, it's our ignorance of it and our willingness to ignore it, because we don't enjoy looking at the hard parts, the hard parts of the human struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And sex trafficking has been happening since the beginning of humanity, unfortunately. And if we try to ignore it, it's only going to grow. And so can you talk a little bit more about the drop-in center that you said that you just opened?
Yeah. It's actually day 1 today. So it's very fresh for us. Yeah. We're still establishing a learning curve. We had the nice ribbon cutting this past week. And so it is open for right now, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 2 on 26th Street. We're just on the north half up off Bank. And it's a space that women can come in. As noted, the average age of entry into trafficking in Kentucky is 12 years old.
Wow.
Most of the women that we are building relationships trying to rescue from trafficking have been trafficked for 10 to 15 years, so they're now adults. And most of them never learned how to do basic life functions because they were sold into this at 12. So they don't know how to cook meals. They don't know how to do a budget. Most of them never went to school and got education. And so that space allows them to come in, have a safe place to be warm. We're going to provide showers. We're working on installing laundry service. That part's not done yet, but it will be in the coming weeks. But then also it's hey, we're going to cook lunch, but you can help us. We'll teach you how to do that. We're going to have a bank-in that's going to do budget classes regularly. We have a partnership with JCPS that you can get your full high school diploma in our building through online classes at no cost to you. And the goal is to establish relationships, help to cover those gaps, but then build that trust where it's, hey, yeah, I want to run. I want out of this lifestyle. And so then we can exit them into a long-term solution, but also exit them with the tools to be more successful.
Right. Absolutely. Now, are you all doing anything related to prevention education? I know that there was a state law that was passed a year or two ago, and I don't expect that Alex he was from Phoenix originally, so I don't know that he necessarily even knows about it, but there is a state law that requires that, like rest areas, there be signage that basically has a helpline for people that are victims of sex trafficking or human trafficking, that they can call in and basically make a police report to try to get help directly from that. So what do you see as the biggest barriers to people being able to get out of this sex trafficking? I hate to call it a lifestyle, but you know, what are the biggest barriers to people getting out of that?
Yeah, well, and you know it from the psychology end, is trauma and Stockholm syndrome and those types of things are real. And so if that's the life you've ever known, even when you exit, well, what do I do now?
Right.
And so establishing that trust of you can trust us and take this step, but then also, hey, stick it out, because it's going to be hard and it's going to be different than anything you've ever done. But we have the plan for you. We have a formula that generally works, that of course we tinker with every survivor and can change the way it's done, but just getting them to establish that trust, that next step.
All right. You're hearing from Alex Kennedy, who runs an organization called Hope Rescued, with a D on the end there, Rescued. So if you want to give to help that ministry, you can go to hoperescued.com. Go click on the donate button. And the most important thing is, don't close your eyes and pretend that this isn't happening, because it is happening right here in our city. Right after the break, we'll be joined and talk about homelessness.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus. I want to remind our listeners, if you want to text in any comments, any questions that you might have, I'll try to work it into the show. I'm not great at that. I'm still relatively new to this hosting thing, but you can text that number at 502-571-0970. You can also text the word give if you want to have a link sent to your phone so you can give to this ministry and this radio station. This next segment, we're going to talk, and we're going to lead off with Pastor Larry Coleman about the topic of homelessness in the city. Just a few baseline stats as relates to homelessness in Louisville. There's approximately 12,000 individuals that experienced homelessness last year, according to our official statistics. And let's not pretend that these statistics in any of these categories is capturing the whole scope of the problem. This is just the problem that we know about and gets reported. There's a lot of people that are so under the radar, we don't even know about these issues. Statewide in Kentucky, homelessness increased by about 10% in 2024. So this is a rising problem. And just to give you a sense of one of the financial impacts, the annual health care costs for people that are chronically homeless are estimated at a little bit over $16,000 per year. So in the city of Louisville, we're talking about $25 million just dealing with the healthcare issues that our homeless population has that we're not addressing through other means. So I want to bring on our guest, Pastor Larry Coleman. I want to remind everyone he is with Feed the City. If you want to give to his ministry, I'll say this before he even begins talking here. It's feedthecityky.com. Go to that. You can find out more about his ministry, what they're trying to do, and there's also a link there that you can donate. So, Larry, I just want you to talk about just the general scope and your understanding of homelessness in the city of Louisville. How is this affecting our community? How big is the problem? Do you see it as growing, as some of the stats seem to indicate? So go ahead. Just
Well, Dr. Lance, homelessness now is so very widespread and so very vague. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And as a citizen of the city of Louisville, I feel a great, great, great need to, when you see a need, that is the call to engage in helping the need.
That's
and
right.
That's how I've lived my life for the last 40 years.
That's right.
You see the need, then that's the call. You don't have to have someone to ask you, well, what should we do? The need is the call. And I wanted to state that because
That's right.
if each and every one of our listeners today would kind of examine, our hearts to say, well, the need is not just for Dr. Lance,
That's right.
not just for our great brother Alex. It's a need in our community. And so homelessness now is so very outspread. I never seen homelessness like it has been. You ride east on Broadway. I mean, you got people laying on the pavement, on the sidewalks. And, years and years ago, that was unseen.
Yeah.
But it has taken such a prevalent move now that they just rest, where people used to sit under the bus stops to get on the bus. Now you can't sit there because you have homeless people. And so, that is the need in our city. That is the need, and the need is the call. And so if I was to engage like we do every day, we try to make people feel like we know you have a situation with being homeless, but what can we do to maybe encourage you? And a lot of it's mental. We have mental issues in a lot of our situations here in the city of Louisville. But I think if we would just take a moment and look at some of the people, some of them, Dr. Lance, are very intelligent.
That's right.
They're very, skilled people. So homelessness is at every one of our doors, no matter what.
That's right. And I would just emphasize, by not addressing homelessness, we are wasting the human resources that all of these people have.
Mm-hmm.
All of these homeless people can be valuable contributors to our society, but if we ignore them, they won't be. So you mentioned something about mental health issues. Also, substance abuse is a issue that definitely contributes to homelessness. What do you see as some of those factors that are leading to the increase in homelessness? So, like, why is it growing, and why is it such a problem? What are the things that lead a person into homelessness or housing insecurity? And then, how is your ministry trying to reach out to some of these people, basically? Yeah.
Well, every day when we open our doors, we give a 15, 20-minute devotion.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that the word of the Lord will never return void. Right. Some people are different with that. We're a faith-based ministry.
That's right.
That's what we are. And our foundation, the food is the net. The food is to meet the need. The food is to maybe help people to get their physical needs met. But spiritually is what we try to put as an emphasis on any solution to any situation, not only homelessness, but drug addiction, not only drug addiction, racism, on and on and on. So we go off of Matthew 25 every day, 35, 36, and 37. When there was a need, hungry, in jail, in a hospital, a stranger, we believe that we can take people and use the scripture as a foundation.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And thank you for all the work that you're doing. Every segment, I'm going to say that. I can't say it enough. And again, these men and the volunteers for their ministry, their wives that are partners in their ministry, are doing the work of the Lord. And one thing that you can do is you can go to these ministers' websites, and you can support their ministries financially. If maybe you're not able, maybe you're elderly and you don't feel like you have the ability to go down and minister one-on-one to the homeless, you can support these efforts by financially backing some of these programs. So Alex, you also have homelessness services that are quite an extensive part of your ministry. What are some of the issues that you find are contributing to the rise in homelessness? And what are the biggest barriers to moving people out of a homeless situation, getting them into permanent housing, et cetera?
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenge we face sometimes is that we think it's a single solution.
Right.
And I think that socially, governmentally, we've said, well, this will fix it. And then it doesn't. And then this will fix it. And as Reverend Larry said, you got to find a need and fill it, is what our mentor, Tommy Barnett, always said. And so for every person, it's different. And homelessness is not a one-size-fits-all issue. Certainly, mental health is a major component that we see a lot in our city. Struggles with addiction are a major component we see a lot in our city. A lot of times, unaffordable housing is a major issue we see in our city, especially we do a lot of family stabilization in our homeless work, where we'll have families with kids call us and say, it's just financially been challenging, and we've had to help kind of provide rent or provide a new move-in deposit and things like that. And when you come with a blanket answer, the blanket only covers some people. Yeah. And so you have to say, hey, every person is made in God's image, and every person's to have different strengths and different weaknesses. How do I invest enough in a person? Which Pastor Larry was getting at really well with that devotional side, is, well, when we're building relationships through ministry, it's not about, hey, let's just give you the canned answer. It's let's build a relationship with you and see how do we build the bridge to a solution. And so it takes all of us, and it takes, I think, creativity to a certain extent that we've been lacking. Our God's a creator at the end of the day, and so we need to be creative. And Hope Rescue, I'll always brag on our teams because they're smarter than me and they're more ingenuitive than me. And so we've done everything from addiction recovery resources. We partner with about 8 organizations that do addiction recovery and will help people for free, to stabilization, to maternity homes, to we've helped about 15 to 20 people get jobs this year through one of our job partnerships. And every time it's, oh, hey, that wasn't the solution I saw coming. But our people our volunteers, our staff do a great job of saying, hey, we found the need. This is the need for this person. How do we fill that need and make them feel individual and cared for, and make sure that they get the solution they need? And so I think the biggest issue for us when we look at homelessness is it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all answer. It's going to take boots on the ground. It's going to take time. It's going to take investment, not just financially, which I think sometimes has been the government way. Not to be critical, but it's been, well, here's an issue. Let's throw money at it and see what sticks.
That's right.
And that's not always going to work. Statistically, we've seen it doesn't work. The more money we spend on homelessness, unfortunately, the more the crisis is growing. That's right. So we should take a step back and say, hey, what are the actual things that would benefit people? Can we get back to the grassroots? It's, the ministry staple, maybe we should apply a little bit better of, why don't we actually talk to people and see what they're struggling with and say, hey, how can we help you? What do you think your needs are, instead of just taking that blanket answer? Right. So I think that's the big issue that we have to get past is kind of breaking the mold that's been established and really, hasn't been successful.
Right. So I want to emphasize again the extent of this problem. We mentioned that in the last year, there was approximately 12,000 people that were considered homeless in the city of Louisville. At any given time, the official point-in-time survey counted 1,728 unhoused people in the city of in the county of Jefferson, and then about 600 of those were considered completely unsheltered. So I do want to give a shout out to Wayside Christian Mission. They do a fantastic job of providing a homeless shelter. So I don't have a representative of them on here, but I do, there's people doing great work in this city. Yeah. And I want to make sure that we draw attention to them as well. In this next segment, we're going to talk about some issues that are related to homelessness, but I don't want to give the impression that food insecurity, which will be the topic of our next segment, is something that only experienced by the homeless. All right. This is affecting so many people, you would be shocked. So we'll have some statistics on that, and we'll have a broad discussion of what the government status currently of SNAP recipients are, and just how extensive food insecurity is in the state of Kentucky and the city of Louisville specifically. Join us after the break.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your special host, Dr. Lance Pearson with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus. Today, we're talking about issues affecting the city of Louisville and surrounding areas, basically urban issues. Our cities tend to collect a lot of these issues. But in this next segment, we're going to be talking about food insecurity. And I just want to basically preface this by saying this isn't a problem that only affects homeless people. In fact, it affects probably people that you know and your neighbors. So in the Kentuckiana region, which is Jefferson County, Louisville, and the collar counties, there are estimated to be just short of 200,000 people that are faced with food insecurity, not necessarily knowing where their next meal is going to come from. That's about 1 in 7 people. Let me repeat that. 1 in 7 people in the Louisville area and the collar counties right around it experience food insecurity. Children are disproportionately subject to food insecurity, with as much as 1 in 5 children, about 20%, 19%, experiencing food insecurity in this area. It's also a problem that has been exacerbated recently by the possibility of the government stepping out of what's called Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. Many people know that as food stamps. So we'll talk a little bit about those issues. And I want to emphasize this. There's been approximately a 50% increase in food insecurity in our area over the last 2 years. So let me just go ahead and throw this to Pastor Larry Coleman of City Church International and Feed the City. I want to talk about his ministry, feedthecityky.com, if you want to give to his ministry. But Larry, why don't you tell us a little bit about the issue of food insecurity in Louisville? Are you experiencing that there is this increased need to provide assistance? And so just tell us your experience on the ground.
Sure. There's been a great increase for the need of food. And of course, when you are a feeding program, your name gets announced, kind of tossed around in the community and in the city. And so we've had a great increase of requests for food. And even now, Dr. Lance, a lot of our people who have needs, they want us to deliver the food to them. And so it has been enhanced. It is a great impact even on our ministry, Feed the City. Sometimes it's, if you don't have 10 or 20 volunteers standing by ready to take food into the community, right. So some people just kind of get overlooked. So, and one of the things that I really truly believe that ministries, when they begin to come together and unify, that it really helps lift the burden off of, one ministry can't do it all.
Absolutely.
But if we communicate and we collaborate and talk about, like Dr. Alex has shared, his sex trafficking, I've learned a lot here in the last 40 minutes.
I hope everyone has.
Yeah, I've learned a lot. And so to mention how we believe that we can help at this time of the year, November and December, they're special months. And we have a new theme this year, and it's called reconciliation. So we believe in November and in December, families normally that don't get together, we believe that they can reconcile. Right. And so food is a magnet, food is a net. And so tomorrow night, which is November the 11th at 6:30, we're going to have our food turkey giveaway, and turkeys and hams and all the fixings. We're going to have a sign up, and it'll be located at 1100 South 26th Street. And we expect 300 plus families to come and to sign up for a turkey and for a ham, and to be able to go home, Dr. Lance, and sit down with their family. Maybe they haven't seen the family. Maybe there's a glitch in the relationship with the family. And we believe that the month of November and the month of December can be a month of reconciliation. And then tomorrow night, only are we going to sign up for food. We're going to sign up for new coats, hats, gloves, toboggans. We'll give away some shoes. And, it's very cold outside today.
Right.
And, we believe that the total man has to be addressed. And again, I have a testimony, a lady that we helped for probably maybe 6-7 years. Her and her husband were married for about 14 years. And one morning, he just passed away very suddenly, just deceased in the bed.
Right.
Went to bed, and the next morning he was deceased in his sleep. And so she had never paid a bill for all of those years. She'd never really been to the school with the children. Her husband did all of that. She'd never been shopping. He would take care of that and pay the bills.
Right.
And it was very, very, very a great hardship on this wife. And so we were able to kind of grab her by the hand and lead her and guide her and get other agencies to come on board. Right. And these are the type needs in our city that sometimes they just pop up.
Right.
And we're thankful. Feed the City is very thankful to be a bridge that gets you out of the bad part and maybe get you into the solution.
That's right. I want to reiterate one point that he made, and that's when we're dealing with a problem that's affecting 1 in 7 people or 1 in 5 children, not one ministry is going to be able to take care of this. Mm-hmm. Not even the government itself is going to be able to take care of this entire problem.
Yeah.
And so as there's been a lot of uncertainty about the government's response recently with the government shutdown, apparently they are working out an end to the government shutdown such that people's SNAP benefits, which most people know as food stamps, will be restored. There was also a problem in the state of Kentucky about Meals on Wheels to deliver food to our elderly shut-ins. And so we've worked out the funding on that. Nevertheless, don't think the government is going to solve this problem totally. Mm-hmm. We need people to participate and give to organizations like Feed the City. That's feedthecityky.com if you want to give. And I want to emphasize these events. Tomorrow night, that's at 1100 South 26th Street. There is a sign up for Thanksgiving and Christmas, the giveaways at Larry's Church, Church City International, or City Church International. They are doing their annual Thanksgiving turkey box giveaway. That's on November 25th.
Correct.
And then they also give away coats. So there's a buy a coat, warm a heart giveaway. And that will be on the 23rd of December. So these are just some of the ministries that feedthecityky.com is doing, and you're doing God's work, Larry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me throw it over to Alex. You also have a food ministry. Mm-hmm. So just tell us some of your experience with that. Just go ahead and pitch.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple weeks. As you would talk to any nonprofit that does food work in the city, I think everybody's probably set records, at least recent records, in the last 2 weeks. And we're the same. So, of course, we do a lot of our homeless work with meal distribution. So we distribute at this point about 1,500 bags of food every 2 weeks to our homeless communities, along with about 400 hot meals in that same span. And then we run a free food market. And so instead of a traditional pantry where they get a box, they can come through and shop and pick out what they want every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's definitely seen an uptick. We fed about 425 people this past Wednesday. And you see the need in this city is pressing. Similarly, we're doing a Thanksgiving giveaway. We're doing 250 Thanksgiving meals. That sign-up's already happened in full, and we're excited to be able to serve our community in that way. But it's a major issue. And as Reverend Larry said, food is I always say it's a fishing hook, so the net analogy works. Where for some people it really is a lifeline and they're going to need it. And it's how life works, unfortunately, sometimes is you fall on hard times and you just need help. But it's also a great avenue to be able to help people find long-term solutions. So our food market partners with our job hiring event. So we partner with a local hiring agency. And so they're there the exact same times as our food market. And that's how we've been able to get a bunch of people employed At one point, somebody who was utilizing our food market is now serving on the team helping run it. They work during the week, and now they get to come and give back. And so things like that are great solutions that you can partner with. Food and distribution is, hey, yeah, we want to meet the immediate crisis, but then how do we, again, work toward a long-term solution? And food for some people will be a crisis that is also unfortunately a long-term issue because of their economics and their life situation. But for a lot of people, we can continue to find avenues of how do we at least lessen the crisis and potentially remove it altogether so that you can walk without having to worry about where your next meal comes from. How do we lower not just the immediate, how do we meet food security for 1 in 5 kids and 1 in 7 people? Yeah, meeting that need is important, but what's going to bring those numbers down? None of us want to continue to say, yeah, we're meeting that need, because we don't want that need to exist. And so, again, coming back to and I don't have all the answers. So when I say we need creative solutions, I'm not the guy that's like, I have the solutions. But I think we need to get out of a box and say, hey, instead of just saying we're going to make sure people are fed this week, how do we make sure people are fed this week and lower this need by getting people practical long-term solutions that hopefully make it so that they're less dependent on this in the long term.
That's right. And I want to emphasize 2 points. Pastor Larry brought this up a little bit earlier. We've had a little cold snap outside, and we actually got our first snow of the winter. And so I like the sight of a little bit of snow on my car. If I were homeless or I was housing insecure, this is a nightmare scenario. When that cold weather comes, I don't know what the stats are on how many people die every year because they don't have a shelter when this cold weather comes in. But we need to care about all of those people. I don't want them to become a number, even if I had that number. Each one of these people, we need to be reaching out and doing what we can to help. Alex mentioned also the need to have some long-term strategies in order to reduce this need. I want to emphasize, we've talked a lot about inflation on programs on this. There's a lot of people that are working a steady job, but they are living paycheck to paycheck. And when their food bill, their grocery bill starts to rise by 15, 20, 25, 40%, a lot of those people basically just don't have the money to make ends meet, and they have to rely on some of these food pantries, these ministries, these food banks. So don't think that this is a marginalized group of people. This is affecting people that you know, I will almost guarantee. Either someone you know or that person that you know knows is being affected by food insecurity. I want to again pitch Hope Rescued with a D on the end, hoperescued.com with Pastor Alex Kennedy, and also feedthecityky.com with Pastor Larry Coleman. I want to thank them for coming on and talking about these issues that a lot of people want to pretend don't exist in our city, but they are far bigger problems than people want to acknowledge. And so thanks for joining us today. I hope this touched your heart and made you understand how serious these issues are. Come on back to our show tomorrow.